Okay, right, let's start the modeling. I'm going to time lapse this. This was about two and a half hours modeling. I'm going to compress it down to about 40 minutes-ish. I'm just going to start to block in the basic shapes. On my second monitor, I have the sketch I produced and a whole bunch of reference for pistons and forklifts, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to align the block model I worked up earlier and just start to just center that. Have the symmetry on the X because this is obviously symmetrical. I'm using basic loop slicing and holding Z to pull edges out. I'm not using any macros or anything like that. Okay. So just real basic blocky work. Every now and again I'm turning on the original layer with the block model on just to see if I'm working within those confines. And this stage is an awful lot like sketching. Here I'm just blocking in the big brush strokes, as it were. This is going to be the main forklift arm. Okay, and thicken. That must have been on the wrong layer. And thicken it. I'm doing everything, as you'll see when we get there. I'm going to do lots of booleans. I guess quick fix. I'm not modeling for pipeline or for 3D assets. I'm modeling for a visual. So things that don't necessarily work out we'll clean up in Photoshop. Running lots of loop slices through the mesh here. Jumping back onto the arm, run a few loops through there, and then selecting edges and beveling them. Again, it's not the best way to model, but it depends on your output. Like I said, I'm modeling to produce a static image as opposed to someone who may be modeling for a game or for a computer CGI asset. Start to block in the forks. We'll have that sit within the arm. Do this pylon area here so we can attach a piston to the top. I'm going to take that section in so we can have another fork, like a pincer above. I can see that's sitting well below the wheel line, so I'm just going to raise that back up. Just delete those polygons in there and rebuild it with the bridge tool and bevel those off. Everything, all the edges are going to be very sharp, which won't look great in the render. So what we'll do when we get there is use the rounded edges area in the materials to soften all the corners. Just put a tooth down there. Cool. So that would act as a kind of a forklift pincer movement. Thicken it and then bring it in line. Just fatten that up. I think I'll add some kind of sort of recessed bed area in there where the pincer would come down. Just run a chop through there. And then with the action center on origin, flip and mirror the arm. A big bevel on that edge at the top to give us that curved cab. I'm going to raise that. I really want the silhouette to be quite an abstract. It's very influenced by Ron Cobb's work. Ron Cobb designed some really great background vehicles for Aliens, which I don't know if they ever built, but I remember seeing the artwork for them. Just nice, industrial, you know, cool silhouette, which is what this whole vehicle would be, just a nice sort of background vehicle. Now here I'm just beginning to model up a piston that's going to drive the forklift. I'll do one fairly generic looking piston, then we'll use it in a couple of places potentially. Just add a couple of nice rivets, bevel the edges. Do the same there. To be honest, we're going to be so wide with the camera we use. You may not read any of this, and so I'm going to be real quick with the small detail. Potentially stuff you could paint in if you want to. I mean, if it was a hand prop, all of this stuff would be worthwhile doing because you'd push the camera right up close and see. But I will add the detail, but I'm not sure how much of that you're going to see. Just bevel those in. That's cool. Okay, we'll just add a cylinder here. We'll use this as a cutting tool to bevel in a nice shape in there. Let's move that back, have the room. Duplicate the cutting tool, and then there we go, bevel, boolean that out. Add that on the end of the piston. I'm going to throw a few more loops in there because I think I may sub D that area. I use lots of sort of kit bashy elements. There's plenty available on the Modo Foundry website, or alternatively you can buy a couple of kits. I just find them really useful for essentially set dressing over the model. I don't think you should never let kit bash dictate the design. You should the silhouette of the design should come from you. But in terms of getting in close for sort of nice filigree piping. You should just go to town with Kitbash and throw all of that stuff in, especially when you're on a deadline. Kind of concept artists are always on a very strict hour or daily deadline, so you shouldn't waste your time modeling every small nut and bolt. You should try and get that stuff in Kitbash form. Okay, I'm just moving and scaling my hydraulic arm. I'm going to place another one in here. This one would sit within the arm and connect to the forklift area down here, and we'd suggest that one is for sort of keeping the load completely horizontal. Just bring that down again. So as the arm would raise, that one would push forward to keep the forklift arm nice and straight. It would take that area in, bevel, move a couple of those edges around. Gives you a nice kind of trough in there for that to sit. That's looking kind of cool. Here I'm adding a plane, because what I like to do is find quite early on the composition I want to work to, and if we're doing this for speed, if you find your composition early, for this visual you only have to model within that composition within what the camera's going to see. So it's just, I mean, I like Modo for having the render tool set all there, as you can start to work that stuff up along with or as you're working the model up. I'm just adding a few more cutting Boolean tools in here, just placing those where we have axles or things supporting the hydraulic pistons. I think I'd like to have another duplicate of that piston sitting within the main body of the vehicle. So we'll have one either side of the arm. I'm not sure if we'll see it, but if we just copy and paste that into there. Just bring that in. Now what we need to do is just cut down. I'm going to bevel into the bodywork. Again, I'm only really loop slicing and beveling polygons at this point, and I'm still not using any kind of macros or shortcuts particularly. I'm just going to slice the whole thing in half there and copy and paste it in, because I must have done some work without having the symmetry turned on. So I've just flipped it over and reconnected it using the bridge tool. What I'm doing here, I've just jumped into a new file which is completely clean. It's quite easy to do some detail work here. I'm just going to really crudely and quickly position a human mesh into a very rough seating position. This is all built to scale, so it's really crude and we're not going to use him or see him again. But if we drop him up into the cab, we just check that all fits, so that's fine.